get over to Washington, D.C. once in a while to check in on the old joke factory. That's Congress. You probably know I don't have to write any political jokes. Nope, I just watch the government and report the facts. Don't even have to exaggerate. There's just no trick to being a humorist when you got the whole government working for you. Before I go any farther, I need to level with you. I'm not a member of any organized political party. I'm a Democrat.
That is the wit and wisdom of Randall Reeder, or otherwise Will Rogers Today. He is the owner of this site, Will Rogers Today, and he goes all around and acts as Will Rogers, giving some of his speeches, his quips, his one-liners. Rogers, circa 1879, died in 1935, grew up on a ranch and became the best-known and most popular American in the first third of the 20th century. Cowboy, movie star, writer, humorist, philosopher. Randall Reeder grew up on a farm and became an agricultural engineer and served on the faculty of a major university for more than 30 years. And Randall has been speaking and writing as Will Rogers Today for 20 years. Randall, welcome to AmericaTrends. Nice to see you.
Same here. Glad to be on with you.
You must just have a ball taking all the speeches and witticisms of Will Rogers, internalizing them, memorizing them, and presenting them. That's so neat. Well, what got you started? Why did you latch on to him?
Well, it is a lot of fun. Well, I look like him. At least I did 20 years ago.
I think you do.
But I've aged a little bit since then.
Was there something about his political humor, his insight? I love Will Rogers. I have a bunch of his bios and books of speeches and everything, so I can understand why you would love him. What was your first step into getting started to going around and presenting yourself as him?
Well, I went to the Will Rogers Museum out in Claremore, Oklahoma, and started researching and found, hey, this is a pretty nice guy. If you're going to look like somebody with a big nose, it's good to look like Will Rogers.
And you're from Hilliard, Ohio, right?
Yes, that's near Columbus.
Oh, I know. I'm from that area. I'm one of you. We're probably related, Randall.
Could be.
Well, it was almost a century ago that Rogers was the most popular man in America, but his wit and wisdom are timeless. Do you have some favorite quotes or stories of his that you can share?
Let me put down my saddlebags and that was a good introduction. There's a few other things that got to lead on after that quote about I'm not a member of any organized political party. I'm a Democrat. Let me just share a couple of things I've picked up. Because of time, I'll just pick three here. The two greatest traits of a Democrat are optimism and humor. You got to be an optimist to be a Democrat, and you got to be a humorist to stay one. Now,
well
Democrats and Republicans are equally corrupt where money's concerned. It's only in the amount where the Republicans excel. Now, compared to Congress, the thing about my jokes is they don't hurt anybody. You can say they're funny or they're horrible or they're good or whatever, but they don't do any harm. But with Congress, every time they make a joke, it's a law. and every time they make a law, it's a joke.
We try not to call them lawmakers because it just encourages them, right? Will Rogers was a leading humorist in the U.S. and even ran for president, had a Broadway musical done in his honor by Tommy Tune, who I'm sure was at the Tonys last night. What is it about Will Rogers that resonated so much then and now?
Oh, I think the thing about him back then was that he was, I won't say apolitical, he joked about people on both sides. Yeah. And everybody liked him. If he was joking about a congressman, he was not talking about them personally or not talking about a president personally. He was talking about their decisions, and usually in a joking manner, and nearly always if he did criticize somebody, he would end up with saying something nice about that person.
Yeah, talking to Randall Reeder. He's the owner of Will Rogers Today of WillRogersToday.com. He's on Twitter and Facebook too. You can book him for your event. Randall, it must be nice to sort of immerse yourself into the personality of Will Rogers when today so many times comedians are harsh and ugly and go on cursing sprees. And, you know, Will Rogers had such a gentle way, and I think that probably is a better way to get your point across, don't you?
It's too bad that humorists today don't follow his example and stick to it. I think some of these people today, I wouldn't even call them a comedian or a humorist. They just go too far, either in right field or left field. Doesn't matter. You need to play it down the middle and kind of joke equally about both sides.
It's true, and do it with a smile. Don't be nasty. Now you go and you talk to groups. I'm so interested in what you do. Do you have a bunch of stuff you've already memorized, or do you have to brush up and add new stuff to your repertoire all the time of his speeches and some of his quotes?
Well, much of it, I use the same material over and over, but in reality, I customize it to a group. If I'm talking to a railroad group, well, there's plenty of things to say about railroads. Or when I was in Texas last year, plenty of things to talk about Will Rogers in West Texas. But some of the basics, and probably the most popular quote, if I can go ahead and get into that one, is...
Yeah, we've got a couple minutes. Go ahead, do a little bit of your act. I'm loving it.
All right. When I die, my epitaph, or whatever those words are that you see on gravestones, is going to read, "I joked about every prominent man in my time, but I never met a man I didn't like." I'm so proud of that, I can hardly wait to die so that it can be carved. And when you come around my grave out in Claremore, Oklahoma, you'll probably find me sitting there proudly reading it. Now, I never met a man I didn't like. Maybe if I was saying that today, I'd say I never met a person I didn't like. And the key word there is met. I never met a person I didn't like. I found that if you give everybody a fair first chance to be decent, to be a friend, then people start liking you. And when people like you, you'll find that your world brightens up, and everything just looks better for you all the way around. And I think if you follow that philosophy of I never met a person I didn't like, you'll find you'll have all the love and admiration that you can handle.
Randall, I can't think of a better message for this day and age with all the hate groups for this and that, identity politics. But, when you meet someone and you realize what you share, that's what we need to remember. That's what's profound. We all have more in common than what we don't, and we all have to find some middle ground. So I sort of thank you for going around and promoting this message. It's sort of neat.
Well, it's fun to do it. As I said, I enjoy it, and I get a lot of pleasure out of traveling around the country and presenting as Will Rogers.
And can people just go to your website and book you and figure out the best way to get you to fly you in, or to drive in if you're in the Ohio area or anything like that?
Sure. They're on WillRogersToday.com, and I think there's links there. My phone number's there somewhere. I'm easy to get a hold of, and I don't say I come cheap, but I recognize the value of $1. So I work with groups and try to get there the lowest cost way that I can to help them out.
Randall Reeder, watching on channel 115 in the Columbus, Ohio area here on U2 America. I know we're seen there. Randall, I can't thank you enough and hope to see you back soon, okay?
All right.
We're back after.